We immigrated from Italy in 1959. I was 8 years old.
I can't remember what I had for dinner last night, but I remember the day that we docked at Pier 21. I remember my mom getting mad at me because I ran down the plank way ahead of her. She was so nervous of us falling in the water. In my heart, I'm still that 8-year-old. I didn't really appreciate what it was like for my mom and dad until I was much older. And I want my grandchildren to know that their great-grandparents sacrificed so that they could be here now.
We grew up in a countryside, Philippines. When I was 10 years old, I started to work on the farm, planting rice under the heat of the sun, making $1.25 Canadian a day. In 2005, I gave birth to my son. My parents were so disappointed. They thought that I failed. And I thought to myself, I'm gonna do something to help them out. So I came to Canada. I left my son behind to my mom. He was 2 years old. I think always that if I don't do this, what's gonna be his future? Pick him up when he was 10 years old to bring here. He didn't know me.
We left Syria and we went to the United Nations. And we were called refugees the first time. In 2013, that was heartbreaking. You will remember every time they call you refugee that you lost your home, you lost everything you have been doing since you were born. But when I arrived in Toronto, the Canadians, they were calling all the Syrians, they were calling them new Canadians. That was such a beautiful start for me once I just landed.
My son, when he gets here, like everything he has it. He's like, oh, the life is really good here. It feels like a home now because he's here.
And I want my grandchildren to understand what Canada stands for. Tolerance, respect for other cultures.
When I applied to come to this country, it was like a light inside of the darkness. My family felt they can bring their culture with them here. There is a story behind everybody in this country.
Welcome to the 12th Annual Public Meeting of the Canadian Museum of Immigration at Pier 21. J'aimerais vous souhaiter la bienvenue à l'Assemblée publique du musée. We've just seen a video of the stories of 3 people who came to Canada at different times, from different places and for different reasons. There are, of course, as many immigration stories as there are people who have immigrated. Representing the diversity of the immigration experience is a key focus for the museum. It is central to what the museum does and central to what Canada is. Today's meeting is taking place on the shore of Chibuktuk, the Great Harbour, otherwise known as Halifax Harbour, which the museum overlooks. Chibuktuk is, in Mi'kmaq, the unceded, ancestral, and contemporary home of the Mi'kmaq. As I record this some weeks ahead of the meeting, I'm at the Canadian Museum for Human Rights in my hometown of Winnipeg. Apart from our own museum, this is the only national museum outside of the National Capital Region. Winnipeg is on Treaty 1 territory, the original lands of the Anishinaabe, Cree, Oji-Cree, Dakota, and Dene people, and the traditional homeland of the Red River Métis Nation. Nous reconnaissons que l'eau que nous buvons à Winnipeg provient du lac Chaull, et nous remercions les Premières Nations qui s'en occupent. Nous sommes tous des gens des traités et nous sommes chanceux de partager cette terre que nous appelons le Canada. Today, we are reporting on the fiscal year April 1st, 2022 to March 31st, 2023. This period saw a welcome return to patterns of visitation and activity that we were used to pre-pandemic. I would like to thank the museum staff, volunteers, and leadership for their work throughout this past year. It was not easy to return to pre-pandemic service levels while at the same time committing to maintaining the increased digital programming developed during the COVID-related closures. But our resourceful staff and volunteers managed it with professionalism and grace. The museum collects and shares stories and artifacts that reflect the experiences of immigrants coming to our country. These stories tell us about the challenges and the dreams of those who have come to Canada, but they also tell us about who we are as a nation. Moreover, they illustrate the contributions immigrants have made to Canada's culture, economy, and way of life. En étudiant ces expériences, nous mettons en lumière l'aspect humain de l'immigration. L'immigration est plus qu'un élément économique et démographique clé du Canada. Elle rend aussi notre pays plus riche au plan de la culture, plus diversifiée et plus inclusive. Le Canada, malgré ses imperfections, reste un pays merveilleux qui attire des personnes à la recherche de nouveaux foyers et de nouvelles sociétés où on peut s'épanouir. We are profoundly thankful for our supporters, including donors and partners. As always, I would like to extend my thanks to the Government of Canada for its ongoing support of the museum and for providing COVID-19 relief funding again this past year. As in past years, this supplemental funding has afforded the museum needed stability during uncertain times. I also want to thank our Board of Trustees, made up of members from all over Canada, for their service to the museum. It's an honor to serve with all of you. Now I would like to introduce Marie Chapman, the museum's Chief Executive Officer.
Thank you, Robert. Welcome to the Canadian Museum of Immigration at Pier 21. This place is a National Historic Site. During a brief 43-year window, nearly 1 million people arrived in Canada by sea and came through this building. It's in this place that those newcomers took their first steps in Canada. But this is a place that is meaningful for more than just the newcomers who arrived here. The museum shares the stories and experiences of people coming to this land, regardless of where and when they arrived, what they went through, whether the transition was easy or hard, whether they felt welcomed, and what finally made them feel like they could call this new country home. Les histoires et les collections du musée doivent être aussi diverses que notre nation. C'est pourquoi, en juin 2022, nous avons mis en place un nouveau plan de développement de la collection visant à ce que les histoires qui ne sont pas assez racontées soient partagées et représentées. The museum is doing that in a number of ways. One way is through partnerships. And one project we're proud to be partnering on is called Hearts of Freedom. This is a multi-year project. The museum became involved in 2016. One of the project's components is a traveling exhibition currently on display at our museum. Hearts of Freedom captures the story of a Southeast Asian refugee migration that brought over 100,000 people to Canada from Laos, Cambodia, and Vietnam between 1975 and 1985, a period that followed the Vietnam War, the Laos Secret War, and the Cambodian genocide. This project has been a long and deep exploration. In addition to the traveling exhibit, it includes 175 oral history interviews, a book, and a film. Le musée a également commandé un projet intitulé Atterrissage en douceur, organisé par Ian Katakou. Le projet consiste en une série de 7 films magnifiquement animés d'1 minute, présentant les paroles et les histoires d'éminents Canadiens et des éminentes Canadiennes toujours vivants qui ont émigré au pays. Il s'agit de personnes qui ont contribué de manière importante à la société canadienne et qui ont excellé dans les domaines de l'entrepreneuriat, de l'environnementalisme et de la science et de l'activisme communautaire. Stephanie Bernard immigrated to Canada from Jamaica. This is her story.
I landed in Ontario. When I came for the first time, there was a snowstorm. I had never seen a country run efficiently when there is snow. I had a friend here who was working as a nurse in Nunavut and decided to take the trip to come and see what it was like. And what really hit me about Nunavut was the feeling of community and the smallness of the space. In 2014, February, myself and 2 friends organized the first Black History celebration at the Francophone Center here in Iqaluit. It's led me to the creation of the Nunavut Black History Society, and we also incorporate aspects of Inuit Language Month. Respecting who they are as a people and their culture has always been very important. I hope the people of African descent, through their contributions, create cross-cultural awareness. That awareness will promote harmony, racial harmony, community harmony in the biggest way possible.
I love Stephanie's story because it is, to me, a delightfully surprising story of how and where she found her new home and the important contribution she has made to it. Nous voulons que ce lieu soit accueillant pour tous les Canadiens et les Canadiennes. À cette fin, nous nous efforçons de faire en sorte que notre bâtiment, nos expositions, notre site web, nos programmes et nos services soient sécuritaires, facilités et utilisés et accessibles aux personnes à mobilité réduite. In 2022, the museum completed its first 3-year accessibility plan. It can be found on the homepage of our website. Rendre le musée plus accessible est un projet continu et nous invitons le public à nous faire part de ses commentaires quant aux améliorations que nous pouvons apporter. Vous trouverez sur cette page un formulaire qui permet de partager vos commentaires. Daniel Monson is an advocate for people living with disabilities and the subject of another soft landing film, which we'll watch now. All of the soft landing films were created with a described video option for people who are blind or partially sighted. Here's what the described video version of Daniel's story looks and sounds like.
A comic book style animation.
My name is Daniel Monson. I'm from Lima, Peru. I was born with a disability. I was born with 1 arm and 1 leg.
Daniel stands on a prosthetic leg.
That led to the decision to move out of Peru, and at the time, America was a little hard to get into, and Canada was a very viable, friendly option.
A mountain range transitions to skyscrapers, then to houses.
I came from a city of 9 million people, and so when I came to Calgary and I didn't see buildings, it was just houses, I was like, is this like a village? Why is it so small? What do people do for work? I was a little kid, I couldn't fathom that.
Young Daniel looks on as palm trees and tall buildings are replaced by houses and the Calgary Tower.
Canada is one of those few countries in the world that I feel that gave me the opportunity no one else did. I mean, I've been able to do such amazing things because people don't look at my disability, but people look at me for my assets, my intelligence, what I can bring to the table. I guess my advocacy work would have to be more with just being me. One of the things I tend to do a little bit is show my prosthetic leg to show, yeah, I am someone with a disability and I am here and I am present and I am in the business world, I'm in the community. And when other little kids with a wheelchair or a disability see that, it's like, oh, wow, okay, I'm not the only one.
To see more of the Soft Landing project, visit our website and search for Soft Landing. Over the last few years, the museum has been producing 2 podcasts, one in each official language. The English podcast is called Countless Journeys, and the French podcast is called D'innombrables Voyages. bien que les titres soient des traductions l'un de l'autre et que les balados se concentrent sur le même thème chaque saison, chaque balado présente des histoires uniques provenant respectivement des communautés d'immigrants anglophones et francophones du Canada. In the fiscal year we're reporting on, we launched season 3 of both podcasts, which focused on immigrant artists working in the visual and performing arts. We also began production on season 4, which is all about food. This season is now out too. Have a quick listen to this clip from season 4 with Anne Hui, author of the book Chop Suey Nation.
And by chop suey Chinese food, I am referring to this whole repertoire of, quote, Chinese food that you're not going to find in China, but you'll find in many Chinese restaurants in North America and really all around the world. This is food that's sold as Chinese and yet wouldn't actually originate from Asia or certainly not China. Many of these dishes were created right here in Canada.
Les balados du musée ne sont qu'un moyen parmi d'autres de remplir la mission du musée à l'échelle nationale. Nous avons également organisé 52 excursions virtuelles et créé un lien avec près d'un millier d'élèves de tout le pays, alors que ces jeunes découvriront l'histoire de l'immigration au Canada. The museum building itself was a busy place this year, which, after a few years of COVID-related closures, was very energizing for all of us. Nous avons organisé 36 programmes publics qui ont accueilli 8300 participants. Il s'agissait des projections de films, de rencontres avec des auteurs et des spectacles de danse et de musique. Avec l'aide du personnel du Centre d'histoire familiale Banque Scotia, 25 000 personnes ont fait des recherches sur les dossiers d'immigration et des généalogies de leur famille. The visiting exhibition, The World of Yusuf Karsh, A Private Essence, ended up being our most successful temporary exhibition to date in terms of visitation. The show featured 100 masterful portraits of 20th century icons. Yusuf Karsh arrived in Halifax alone as a teenager fleeing the Armenian genocide and went on to become one of the world's most famous portrait photographers. The exhibition was organized by the Montreal Museum of Fine Arts in collaboration with our own museum. The Halifax exhibition was generously supported by Fred and Elizabeth Fountain. The museum hosted many kids and young adults. During Holocaust Education Week, over 400 students gathered to hear Holocaust survivor Fiscal Goldig tell his own story of survival as a young person. With fewer and fewer Holocaust survivors around to tell their stories, this was an invaluable moment of remembering and sharing an important personal history. All of our Jewish immigration education programs are supported by the Atlantic Jewish Council, honoring Ruth. Another of our visiting exhibitions, Kids Celebrate, from the Canadian Museum of History, showcased 12 special times of year that kids across Canada celebrate, from Christmas to Hanukkah to Diwali to Halloween to Earth Day. While the exhibition was here, one of our staff passed by and saw 4 boys sitting at the Hanukkah section spinning dreidels while wearing butterfly wings and army helmets from the Halloween section. We liked that image so much that we commissioned artist Colleen McIsaac to recreate it. While the building was full of people, our traveling exhibition, Refuge Canada, continued to tour the country, helping to deliver on our mandate as Canada's National Immigration Museum. Refuge Canada looks at the experience of and dispels myths about refugees. To make sure we are sharing this important story widely, the exhibition has 3 versions, one larger, designed to tour to partner museums, and 2 smaller formats, which have been shown in less likely locations like libraries, shopping malls, and even the CN Tower. Refuge Canada has been seen by over 130,000 Canadians in 30 communities across 8 provinces, and it has tour bookings through 2025. This is an important and timely project. Comme l'a déclaré le conservateur du musée, Dan Conlon, alors même que la crise des réfugiés explose, nos expositions ont fait le tour du monde pour inciter les Canadiens à réfléchir à ce que cela signifie être un réfugié et ce que le Canada peut faire pour mieux répondre aux défis auxquels les réfugiés font face. Je tiens à remercier la Fondation de la famille Burks pour le soutien qu'elle apporte à la tournée de la Tente Refuge Canada qui aura bientôt lieu au Québec. We would not be able to do what we do without support. Individual donors, large and small, make a big difference in our work as a museum, as do sponsors, partner organizations, and charitable foundations. It was great to see and reconnect with the museum's long-standing supporters at our final annual California Wine Dinner fundraiser. This has been an important event for the museum and a special night in the calendar for over 2 decades. I want to take this opportunity to thank Allison Watson, the chair of this year's event, and all those who have served on the event committee over the years. We also hosted 2 of our Fascinating Canadian Speakers events. In Halifax, our Breakfast with a Fascinating Canadian featured CIBC President and CEO Victor Dodig, who spoke about his parents' journey to Canada in the early 1960s as Croatian refugees. In Toronto, our Luncheon with a Fascinating Canadian featured Kalen Rovanescu. Kalen was 5 when he left Romania with his parents and older sister as refugees. He went on to become President and CEO of Air Canada. Both Victor and Kalen have had very successful careers, but beyond that, both focused on how their parents' values and beliefs shaped the lives of their children and grandchildren and helped build the communities where they lived and worked. And both reflected on the conditions that will make Canada successful as we welcome greater numbers of immigrants and the importance of this success. Lors d'un autre événement organisé par le Musée à Montréal, Gina Cody s'est adressée à une salle de supporters afin de leur expliquer l'importance de ce nous faisons. L'histoire de Gina était elle-même une source d'inspiration. Gina est arrivée d'Iran en 1979 et est devenue la première femme diplômée du programme de doctorat en ingénierie de bâtiment de l'Université Concordia. Après une carrière immensément réussie, elle siège aujourd'hui au conseil d'administration de l'institution et son école d'ingénierie et d'informatique porte son nom. There are a few donors and supporters for 2022-23 that I would like to recognize now. Their support allowed us to carry on important programs and activities during this highly atypical year. The Crawford Family Foundation supported our virtual field trip program, and we are happy to say that the J. and W. Murphy Foundation has joined as a supporter of our educational programming as well. Our volunteer program is presented by Scotiabank. The Jaroslawski Foundation supported the popular luggage tag interactive programming in which museum visitors write their own immigration stories on luggage tags, which get filed by country of origin and displayed in the museum. La RBC et la Fondation R. Howard Webster ont soutenu notre programme d'emploi pour les nouveaux arrivants du Canada intitulé Bienvenue au Canada. And the area of the museum known as the Gateway, the spot where nearly 1 million newcomers took their first steps in Canada, was named for war bride Anne Risley, who disembarked her ship from the UK and took those first steps in 1946. The naming follows a major gift from Anne's son, John Risley. To acknowledge another major gift from the Verschuren family, the section of the museum called Treasures from Home was dedicated in their honor. Lastly, TD continued its commitment to our artist in residence and community outreach programs, which includes all of our African Heritage Month and Asian Heritage Month events. The support offered by donors and supporters, large and small, makes possible the exhibitions and public and educational programming on offer at the museum. Nous sommes éternellement reconnaissants envers ceux qui contribuent à la vitalité du musée. We invite you to visit us in person or online to see what the museum has to offer. If you're in one of the many places where Refuge Canada is visiting in the next year, I hope you have a chance to check it out. D'où que vous veniez, Et où que vous soyez, le musée a quelque chose pour vous. We look forward to welcoming you.